Today's slides for definition. Purine ring, purine bases. Ring bases. These are the important bases other than the existing purine bases. Bases. This is the structure of sugar. Structure of nucleoside. And structure of nucleotide. So you can experience the structure of nucleotide. This is the table of nomenclature. And these are the functions of important nucleotides. Okay. So we have almost 10 functions of nucleotides. Yesterday I have asked you why these structural analogs are called as anti-metabolites. Have you gone through the book? Gone through the book? What the answer? If you have not,
it is not clear.
Yes. Can you hear me? Hello. Hello. Hello.
No, ma'am, we can hear you, but there is a lot of disturbance in the background.
Lot of disturbance in the background.
Yeah.
But I am sitting in a quiet.
Don't know, ma'am, but there is some disturbance occurring here.
Ma'am, it's done now. Now there is no sound.
So this is synthesis of purine, de novo synthesis of purine, and this is the first step, formation of PRTP or zero step in the de novo synthesis. Okay, so these are the steps. In that first 3 steps, you need to remember. Most of the steps you just go through that, and the last 4 or 5 steps. These are the steps needed to be remembered by. These are the steps needed to be remembered by. These are the contributors of the purine. And this is formation of di and trinucleotide from mononucleotide. Okay. The utilization of ATP for the addition of phosphate bond to the nucleotide, dinucleotide. So this is regulation of purine synthesis. As we have discussed yesterday, PRPP synthase. This is the first and foremost step of zero step. Then glutamine PRPP, amydo transferases. These two are negatively regulated by the end products. Okay. Then conversion of AMP to adenine succinate. It is this step is succinate. It is expressed by the action of enzyme adenine succinate synthetase, which is under control, feedback negative control of AMP. Okay, and conversion of IMP to GMP. The step here is enzyme present here is AMP dehydrogenase, which is regulated by GMP. So this is regulation of purine synthesis. It is one of the important question. Okay, it will be a part of a long question if it is asked on the de novo synthesis of purines. Okay, now today we are going to deal with salvage pathway. The pathway is involved in the conversion of free purine rings to the nucleotides. It is called as salvage pathway. That means free purine rings are already existing in the human body. Then you are going to add sugar to it and phosphate groups to convert it into a nucleotide. Okay, this consists of a single step reaction. We have seen the chain of reaction that is taking place in de novo synthesis, and it requires lots of energy. De novo synthesis requires lots of energy, and it will require a time. The salvage pathway is a midway that converts the free purine rings into the nucleotide. Okay, so the free purine bases adenine guanine, and hypoxanthine. Okay, these are formed in the cells during the metabolic degradation of nucleic acids
Excuse
and
me, ma'am.
nucleotides. Yes.
Your voice is not clear. Actually, it's not clearly audible to us.
सब लोगों को प्रॉब्लम आ रहा है तो सिर्फ तुमको ही आ रहा है?
Unable to hear you.
बाकी के लोगों को सुनने को आ रहा है क्या?
No, ma'am. No.
बाकी है?
No, ma'am. We are not very clear.
तो मैं जो बोल रही हूँ वो सुन नहीं पा रहे हो। एक मिनट एक काम करती हूँ, मास्क उतार। अभी सुनाई दे रहा है?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you hear me clearly now?
Yes, ma'am.
अभी सुनाई दे रहा है ठीक से सबको?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fine. So the free purine bases, that means adenine, guanine, and hypoxanthine, which are already existing in the cell. These are formed during the metabolic degradation of nucleic acids and nucleotides, which are reutilized and reutilized for the synthesis of purine nucleotides. Okay. So this is energy and time saving process. This is the salvage reaction for phosphorylation of adenine. This is the adenine which is existing in the cell. We just are going to add the PRPP, that is phosphoribosyl pyrophosphate to it. Okay, adenine, to that we are going to add phosphoribosyl pyrophosphate. That means a phosphate group and a ribose sugar. Those are both are present in this PRPP, and we are adding it to a purine-based adenine, and there is a formulation of AMP. And the enzyme is called as adenine phosphoribosyl transferase. Okay. So this is a simpler method, easy to remember as compared to salvage pathway also. A single step reaction is there. Okay. This is for adenine. Now coming for hypoxanthine and guanine. Okay. Hypoxanthine is converted to INP, that is inosine monophosphate. PRPP is utilized and pyrophosphate entity is removed. That means a ribose and a phosphate group is transferred to the hypoxanthine, and there is a formation of inosine monophosphate. Similarly, guanine is converted to GNP, that is guanosine monophosphate, and the enzyme here is a single enzyme catalyzing the both reactions. Okay, the enzyme is hypoxanthine guanine phosphoribosyl transferase. The name of enzyme is self-explanatory. You just have to use your common sense to remember this enzyme. Can you hear me, all of you?
Yes,
Hello. Okay,
yes,
fine.
ma'am.
Okay, so,
ma'am.
hypoxanthine is converted to IMP and guanine is converted to GNP, right? And the common enzyme is there. It is called as hypoxanthine guanine phosphoribosyl transferase, HGPRTase. Okay, the short form of enzyme is HGPRTase. Clear? So it is as simple as that, a single step reaction in salvage pathway. Adenosine is converted to AMP, hypoxanthine is converted to IMP, and guanine is converted to GNP. Clear? So, in and all, or you can say, you can summarize this in this way. Purine nucleoside, that means nitrogen base plus sugar. It will be called as purine nucleoside. And if we add a phosphate group to it, utilizing ATP, the enzyme here will be kinase that will transfer the high energy phosphate bond to purine nucleoside, and this purine nucleoside will be converted to purine nucleotide. Okay. Now, coming to the significance of salvage pathway. Okay, HGPRPase, the second enzyme in salvage pathway that converts the hypoxanthine and guanine to respective nucleotides. Okay, HGPRPase channels the hypoxanthine and guanine back to the DNA synthesis. Okay, so these are the metabolites, intermediate metabolites, or you can say intermediate purine bases, which are found in the cells as the process of catabolism. They are reutilized for the DNA synthesis. Once they are converted to nucleotides, they can be used in the DNA synthesis. If this HGPRTase enzyme is defective, or if there is any problem with this enzyme, leading to failure of the enzyme, that will lead to increased uric acid. As we can see, if the intermediate purine bases are not reutilized for the synthesis of nucleotides, they are going to break down. Their final fate is going to be catabolism. Okay, and that will increase the uric acid. Then the de novo pathway is simulated due to excess of PRP. Okay, if the PRPP is available in excess, that will increase the synthesis of these purine nucleotides. Okay. Second one is salvage pathway provides purine nucleotides for tissue incapable of their synthesis by de novo pathway. For example, brain, RBCs, polymorphonuclear cells, WBCs. These cells are incapable of biosynthesis of purine nucleotides by the mechanism of de novo synthesis. The brain, RBCs, and WBCs, particularly polymorphonuclear cells, utilize the salvage pathway for the synthesis of purine nucleotides. Okay, so human brain has low level of PRPP, amidotransferase. This is the second enzyme in the de novo synthesis of purine nucleotides, and therefore it depends in part on the salvage pathway. So the complete requirement of purine nucleotide cannot be fulfilled by de novo synthesis. Brain requires a salvage pathway for synthesis of purine nucleotides. Erythrocytes and polymorphonuclear cells or polynucleosides cannot synthesize 5-phosphoribosylamine and therefore utilize exogenous purines from the nucleotides. The same thing is given over here. Human brain, erythrocytes, and WBCs, particularly polymorphonuclear cells, they are unable to synthesize purine nucleotides by de novo pathway. Brain can partially synthesize it, but it cannot fulfill the complete requirement. So these are the cells which are dependent on salvage pathway for the synthesis of purine nucleotides. So this is all about the synthesis of purine nucleotides by salvage pathway. Now you have seen the de novo synthesis as well as you have seen the salvage pathway. As you have seen, salvage pathway is a simpler one in which purine rings are there. You are just going to transfer the sugar and phosphate group, and with a single step you are going to get the purine nucleotides. And human brain cells and erythrocytes and WBCs, they are dependent on this salvage pathway. Now we are moving towards the catabolism of purine nucleotides. Okay, the end product of purine nucleotides. The end product of purine nucleotides, that means adenine and guanine, the end product is uric acid. The pathway for degradation of AMP includes an extra step because adenosine is not a substrate for nucleoside phosphorylase. This nucleoside phosphorylase is an enzyme that removes the PRPP from the nucleotide. Okay, but this nucleoside phosphorylase cannot act on adenosine. So there is a extra step in which adenosine is converted to inosine. The extra, okay, fine. The healthy adult human excretes about 0.6 grams of uric acid per 24 hours. Okay, so this is a catabolic pathway of purines, AMP. That means adenosine monophosphate, the removal of phosphate group by the enzyme nucleotidase. Adenosine is formed, and as we have discussed in earlier slide, adenosine is not substrate for nucleoside phosphorylase. This adenosine is converted to inosine by enzyme adenosine deaminase. Amino group is removed from adenosine and adenosine is converted to inosine. Now this inosine undergoes a reaction of removal of ribose 1-phosphate. That means a sugar and a phosphate group is removed and it is converted to hypoxanthine. This is one of the purine ring residue. Okay, metabolite of the purine catabolism. Here in GMP, GMP is acted upon enzyme nucleotidase, and there is removal of ribose 1-phosphate. There is a removal of amino group. Guanosine is formed over here, and guanosine undergoes a chemical reaction catalyzed by nucleoside phosphorylase, the same enzyme in the last step, that removes the ribose 1-phosphate, and guanosine is converted to guanine. So here at this step, you can say at this step after the action of nucleoside phosphorylase, this nucleoside phosphorylase removes the sugar along with phosphate group. So whatever we get is a purine ring, okay, intermediate purine ring. From GMP we are getting guanine, and from AMP we are getting hypoxanthine. Are you getting me? Can you see the slide? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Fine.
Ma'am.
Okay, fine. So this is the catabolism. For AMP, there is one extra step of adenosine deaminase. Here adenosine is converted to inosine, as adenosine is a not substrate for nucleoside phosphorylase. Okay, so we have here hypoxanthine and guanine. In further reaction, hypoxanthine is converted to xanthine by enzyme xanthine oxidase. Okay, and guanine is converted to xanthine by enzyme guaninase. And this xanthine is converted to uric acid by the same enzyme xanthine oxidase over here. And this uric acid is excreted out in human beings. Is it clear to you? Is it clear to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Fine. So this is a catabolic pathway of purines. Again, this is one of the theory question. Okay. Now, disorders of the purine catabolism. The catabolism of purines, that means adenine and guanine, produces a uric acid. Uric acid is an end product of the catabolism of purines. At physiological pH, uric acid is mostly ionized and present in the form of sodium urate. Okay. The normal blood serum levels of uric acid is around 4 to 7 milligrams per dl or per 100 ml. If it is elevated than 7, then it is called as hyperuricemia. Okay. The uric acid and urate, these are relatively insoluble molecules which are readily precipitate out of aqueous solution. That means the uric acid and urate, okay, the salt of uric acid is urate. They are relatively insoluble in aqueous medium. That's why they are precipitated out of the solution. and the consequence of this is the condition which is called as gout. So the formation of uric acid depends on. So we have seen that uric acid is an end product of purine catabolism, and this uric acid exists as a salt, sodium urate, and these uric acid and urate, these are readily precipitated out of aqueous solutions. Okay, is it clear to you? Now, formation of uric acid is dependent on the rate of de novo synthesis of purines. If the rate of de novo synthesis of purines is more will be the formation of uric acid. The metabolism of endogenous DNA, RNA, and other purine containing metabolism. If the metabolism of this endogenous purine rings is more, there are more chances of formation of uric acid. Okay, and if there is excess of breakdown of dietary nucleic acid, then again there are chances of excess of production of uric acid. Is it clear? Can you see the slide?
Yes, ma'am.
So this slide explains the causes of hyperuricemia. We have seen the normal range of uric acid is 4 to 7 milligrams per day. If it is more than normal level, it is called as hyperuricemia. Hyperuricemia can occur because of two basic etiologies. First is increased production of uric acid, and other one is decreased excretion of uric. Okay, so the increased production of uric acid is seen in a primary or genetic conditions in which there is defect in PRPP synthetase. This PRPP synthetase is regulated by feedback inhibition by the end products, that is AMP, GMP. If the enzyme is defective, that will not be regulated by the end products, and it will continue to take part in the cycle that will increase the uric acid formation. Similarly, PRPP aminotransferases. This is the second enzyme in the de novo synthesis of purine bases. Again, it is regulated by feedback inhibition by the end products, and if the enzyme is defective, it will not be controlled or it will not respond to the negative feedback mechanism. Third one is GPRTase. This is the enzyme which is involved in the salvage pathway of purine synthesis, purine nucleotide synthesis. If this GPRTase is deficient or defective, that will not utilize the purine bases which are formed inside the cell as a part of catabolism. So if they are not reutilized to form purine nucleotides, again their fate is the catabolism, and that will increase the uric acid formation. So these are the three enzymes which are responsible for increased uric acid synthesis if they are defective. And this is called as the primary cause for the increasing the uric acid level. Okay. Now coming to the secondary cause. Uric acid level can be secondarily increased because of increased dietary intake, increased nucleic acid turnover. This increased nucleic acid turnover is seen in various malignancies, psoriasis, and all the disorders in which there is excess of cell division. Then excess of ATP breakdown and deficiency of glucose 6-phosphatase. Glucose 6-phosphatase is an enzyme that acts on glucose 6-phosphate and converts it into a glucose again. If glucose 6-phosphate is available inside the cell, this glucose 6-phosphate will undergo HMP shunt, and HMP shunt will produce more and more ribose or 5-carbon sugar that will take part in the synthesis of nucleotides. So these are the reasons because of which uric acid formation is raised. First one is primary, which is because of enzyme defect, and secondary, which is because of increased turnover of the cell, increased dietary intake, excessive ATP, breakdown, and deficiency of glucose 6 phosphatase. Remember this. This is again a deficiency of an enzyme, but it is in the secondary cause of increased uric acid. It is not directly involved in the de-novo-synthesis or salvage pathway of synthesis of uric acid. So this is increased uric acid formation that will lead to hyperuricemia, right? Now coming to the second part, in which the hyperuricemia is seen because of decreased uric acid excretion by the kidney. If the uric acid excretion is decreased, the uric acid will be accumulated in the body. So the first here is idiopathic condition in which the exact cause is not known. And the secondary conditions are like renal insufficiency, renal tubules cannot excrete out the uric acid, metabolic acidosis, lactic acidosis, ketoacidosis, in which the acidity, or you can see the pH of the blood is reduced. So there is competition in excretion. Uric acid and lactic acid will compete for the excretion, and in lactic acidosis, ketoacidosis, metabolic acidosis, if the amount of other acids will increase, then this will reflect in decreased excretion of uric acid. As there is a competition and other acids are more as compared to uric acid, the chances of excretion of other acids are more as compared to uric acid. That will lead to hyperuricemia. Now, starvation and diabetes mellitus, same thing happens. There is a formation of excessive acid, and that will compete for excretion. Okay, and that will lead to decreased excretion of uric acid, leading to hyperuricemia. Okay, and a condition, increased tubular reabsorption, that causes increased reabsorption of uric acid from the renal tubules. That will also increase the uric acid level in the blood. So this chart is very much important. You need to, memorize it. First is due to increased uric acid formation, and other component is due to decreased uric acid excretion. In increased uric acid formation, we have primary and secondary. Primary, the enzymes which are directly linked for the synthesis of purine nucleotides, either de novo synthesis of salvage part. In secondary, increased turnover of cells, that will be leading to increased formation of uric acid, and one enzyme, of course, here, that is glucose 6 phosphatase, but it is not directly related to the synthesis of purine nucleotides. Okay, it will increase the ribose sugar, so deoxyribose sugar, and that will ultimately lead the formation, increase the formation of purine nucleotides. Okay, so decreased uric acid secretion in other part, and these are the conditions, particularly renal conditions and the conditions leading to acidosis. And in acidosis, there is a competition for the excretion. Okay, and if the acid levels are raised, that means pH is lower, the chances of excretion of uric acid become less, and that's why uric acid levels in the blood will raise. So that is hyperuricemia. Now coming to a disorder which is called as gout. Gout is a metabolic disorder associated with elevated levels of uric acid in the serum. The increased serum uric acid is due to either increased formation of uric acid or its decreased renal excretion. We have seen this in the table. Okay, whatever be the cause, gout is associated with hyperuricemia, but not every hyperuricemia patient will present with gout. Okay. So, classification of gout. Gout is classified into two broad types: primary gout and secondary gout. Firstly, we will see the primary gout. Primary gout is an inborn error of metabolism due to overproduction of uric acid all the enzymes which are involved in the synthesis of purine nucleotides, either de novo synthesis or salvage pathway. They are considered in this primary gout. In primary gout, increased level of uric acid is associated with increased synthesis of purine nucleotides. Okay. Increased synthesis of purine nucleotides is caused by the defective enzymes of purine nucleotide synthesis, either de novo or salvage pathway. This is PRPP synthetase and PRPP glutamyl amidotransferase. Again, this is first enzyme and this is second enzyme in de novo synthesis, and HGPRTase is enzyme for salvage pathway. Now coming to the symptoms of primary gout: elevated concentration of uric acid in the blood and tissue. Joints become inflamed, painful, and arthritic due to abnormal deposition of sodium urate. To be specific, sodium monourate crystals, these are precipitated in the soft tissues that will that lead to activation of macrophages, lysosomes, and that will increase the inflammatory response. Okay. Patients with the primary gout often show the deposition of urate as a tophi. These are the clusters of monosodium urate crystals in the soft tissues, particularly first metatarsophalangeal joint and ear lobule, soft part of the ear, that leads to a painful arthritis when it is deposited on the synovial membrane. Kidneys are also affected since excess of urate is also deposited in the kidneys. After tubular maximum, after the limit of kidney that can excrete out the uric acid, this uric acid and salt of uric acid, that is sodium urate, gets deposited in the kidney also as a stool. Okay? That's why the kidneys are also affected in the gout. So this is the, can you see the picture? Hello? Hello? Yes. Can you see the picture?
Ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Here, joint, what do you say, the synovial joint membrane is these sodium monourate crystals are deposited in the form of toffee in the tissue. So you can see the picture how there is deformity of a joint. Okay. Now coming to a secondary gout. Primary gout is because of deficiency of enzymes in the synthesis of purine nucleotides. May either it be a de novo synthetic pathway or a salvage. Okay. In secondary gout, the primary synthetic pathway is kept aside and there are other causes that are leading to increased uric acid in the body. The secondary gout results from the variety of diseases that cause an elevated destruction of cells which occurs in cancer. In cancers like leukemia, polycythemia and other malignancies, there is excess of cell turnover. Okay, excess of lysis of cells. Excess of lysis of DNA and RNA is present inside the cell that will increase the amount of uric acid. Okay, and the disorders like psoriasis and hypercatabolic states like starvation and trauma. Here also the cell destruction is more or cell turnover is more, leading to increased formation of uric acid. Decreased elimination of uric acid, which occurs in chronic renal diseases, due to reduced glomerular filtrate rate. Okay, and glucose 6 phosphatase deficiency. This we have seen in that particular chart. Okay, so these all are the causes of secondary gout. Now coming to the treatment part of gout. Gout can be treated by combination of nutritional therapy and drug therapy. Foods that are specifically rich in nucleotides that should be avoided. And as we have seen, glutamine bases are also present in plants. that is caffeine, theobromine, theophylline, which are present in coffee, tea, and coca plantain, means a chocolate. You can avoid that foodstuff to reduce the production of uric acid inside your body. Okay. Then restriction of intake of alcohol is also advised. Then use of drugs like allopurinol, which inhibits the xanthine oxidase competitively. We'll go back to the slide where, yes, this is the enzyme xanthine oxidase. Last two steps. Okay, for AMP, and for guanine, the last step. It is catalyzed by xanthine oxidase. Okay. So the allopurinol inhibits this xanthine oxidase irreversibly, and there is a formation of alloxanthine. Okay, this is a sort of suicidal inhibition. Is it clear to you? Hello.
Hmm.
So this, yes. So this allopurinol causes irreversible inhibition of the xanthine oxidase, and there is a formation of alloxanthine that stops the formation of uric acid. So this is for the maintenance therapy of gout, and a colchicine is a drug of treatment for the acute episode of gout. Okay. Now coming to next disorder. It is called as Lish-Nihan syndrome. It is inherited X-linked recessive disorder that affects only male. It is caused by complete deficiency of HGPRTase enzyme. This HGPRTase is an important enzyme in salvage pathway, purine salvage pathway. In absence of this HGPRTase, salvage pathway is inoperative and purine cannot be reconverted to purine nucleotides. So these purines are definitely catabolized and there is excess of production of uric acid. Okay. The genetic lack of HGPRTase, this point is to be noted. The genetic lack of HGPRTase causes overproduction of PRPP, which stimulates the excess purine biosynthesis. Okay, so the de novo synthesis of purine is increased. Okay, the genetic lack of HGPRTase that causes an overproduction of PRPP. Because of increased purine synthesis, the degradation product uric acid is also increased. It results in increased concentration of uric acid in plasma and urine, and it can lead to gout, to cause damage to the tissue. Okay. Now coming to the signs and symptoms of Lish-Nihan syndrome. Okay. Hyperuricemia. Now you know the cause of hyperuricemia in Lish-Nihan syndrome. Patient may present with the signs and symptoms of gout, urinary tract stones, and the important clinical picture over here is the neurological signs and symptoms of mental retardation. There are spasticity related presentations like resistance to the passive movement of a limb, and there are self-mutilating signs and symptoms. Self-painful destructive behavior similar to biting of fingers and lips. So this psychological, or you can say the involvement of CNS is seen in Lish-Nihan syndrome, that is absolutely absent. That is absent in gout. So this differentiates the clinical picture of hyperuricemia of gout and Lish-Nihan syndrome. You may get a clinical case of gout as well as Lish-Nihan syndrome. The differentiating feature over here is involvement of CNS. If the involvement of CNS is there and the presenting patient is a child, then the cases of Lish-Nihan syndrome. And if there is no signs and symptoms of involvement of CNS, you can proceed with the diagnosis of gout. Is it clear to you? So allopurinol reduces the uric acid formation, but it does not elevate the neurological signs and symptoms. And this syndrome is potential target of gene therapy. Okay, now my question to you is, why the CNS involvement is seen in Lesch-Nyhan syndrome and why it is not seen in Gout? It is a sort of homework for you, or you can say it is a reference reading. Okay, go through the books, find why Lesch-Nyhan syndrome has presentation of CNS signs and symptoms and why Gout does not have this involvement of CNS. Now coming to next disorder, that is severe combined immunodeficiency, or it is called as SCID. Okay, it is an immunological disorder. It is because of absence of adenosine deaminase activity. This adenosine deaminase is an enzyme that converts adenosine to inosine in the catabolism of ATP, AMP, and ADP, right? It results in the severe combined immunodeficiency. Again, this can be asked to you as a short note, and MCQ can be asked on this. Okay, this ADA is an enzyme involved in the degradation of AMP. A person with SCID, that is severe combined immunodeficiency syndrome, have severe recurring infections, often leading to death in a early stage. Now, my question is, why this patient has a chances of recurring infections? As we have seen, it is an enzyme which is involved in catabolism of AMP. So the catabolism of AMP is halted and there is excess of accumulation of AMP, and that leads to the normal that causes damage to T4 and T8 cells which are present in our body. SCID characterized by loss of T cells and B cells, which is essential for the immune response. And SCID is also oftenly called as bubble boy disease, as we have to isolate the patient from any chance of infection in sterile bubble environment. Okay. So the treatment part, bone marrow transplant from the matched donor to replace the hematopoietic stem cells. Those mature into B and T cells. Enzyme replacement therapy, ADA, active ADA enzyme is injected, but the results are reverted after 8 to 10 years of the treatment and may give complications like malignancies. The permanent cure requires replacing the defective gene with normal functional one. Gene therapy is rapidly coming to. Okay, so the gene therapy is the future of this SCID. Now, here we have ended the metabolism of purines. Okay, this is the major one of the metabolism of nucleotides. Now we are heading to the de novo synthesis of pyrimidine nucleotides. This is a very short part. We will just finish it in 10 minutes, I think. So bear with me. We will finish it off in 10 minutes. So the de novo biosynthesis of pyrimidine nucleotides. Pyrimidine nucleotides are CMP, UMP, and TMP. Unlike the synthesis of purine nucleotides, 6-membered pyrimidine ring is first formed and then it is attached to ribose phosphate, which is donated by PRP. We have seen purine synthesis is a much complicated process. As compared to that, pyrimidine nucleotide synthesis is very much simpler. So these are the precursors or donors of the carbon and nitrogen of the pyrimidine bases. Okay. Nitrogen at carbon number 1, then carbon number 4, 5, 6. These are donated by aspartic acid. Nitrogen at carbon number 3 is donated by glutamine, and carbon at carbon number 2 is donated by carbon dioxide. Okay, so this is the synthesis of pyrimidine nucleotide. We will just go through the steps hurriedly. CO2 plus glutamine, they are converted to carbamyl phosphate. enzyme over here is carbamyl phosphate synthetase 2. This carbamyl phosphate synthetase 1, it is present in the urea cycle. Okay, and here in urea cycle, the source of nitrogen is ammonia. Here, the source of nitrogen is glutamine. Then carbamyl phosphate undergoes a reaction which is catalyzed by aspartate transcarbamoyls. Aspartic acid is added over here, and there is formation of carbamoyl aspartate. Okay. In third step, there is a dehydration and formation of intermediate metabolite. Then there is a formation of orotate. To this orotate, PRPP transfers transfers the 5-carbon sugar along with phosphate group to form ornithine monophosphate. Okay. Then this ornithine monophosphate is converted to UMP, that is uridine monophosphate. And this uridine monophosphate, a series of reactions is converted to CTP and converted to deoxyribonucleotides. Okay, that means UDP, UMP, and TNP. Okay, so these last reaction is of importance because various antimetabolites are at these steps. Okay, so this N5N10 methylene THF donates the methyl group to deoxy-UMP to form deoxy-TMP. Uridine and thymine, there is just a difference of methyl group in their basic structure. The methyl group is donated by this N5N10 methyl THF, and enzyme here is thymidylate synthetase. Okay, so this is the first enzyme which is called as CPS, carbamyl phosphate synthetase 2. This synthetase 2 is present in cytosol. It is utilized for the pyrimidine synthesis, and the source of nitrogen over here is glutamine. Then this carbamyl phosphate synthetase 1, it is present in mitochondria. It is utilized in urea cycle, and source of nitrogen is ammonia. Then coming to the regulation of the de novo synthesis of pyrimidine nucleotides. First two enzymes are important: carbamyl phosphate synthetase 2 and aspartate transcarbamoyls. Okay, so you can see here, this is the first enzyme, that is carbamyl phosphate synthase 2. Okay, it is inhibited by negative feedback loop by UTP, and it is activated by PRPP. The second enzyme is aspartate transcarbamoylase. It is inhibited by negative feedback mechanism by CTP, and it is activated by ATP. Okay, so this is the regulation of de novo synthesis of pyrimidine nucleotides. Now coming to the catabolism of pyrimidine nucleotides. The end products of pyrimidine catabolism, these are highly water soluble, and these are CO2, ammonia, beta amino isobutyrate, and beta alanine. Okay, so CO2 can be exhaled out, ammonia, it is converted to urea and excreted out. Then what happens to beta amino isobutyrate and beta alanine? So in human body, transaminates the beta amino butyrate to the methylmalonyl semialdehyde, which is in turn converted to succinyl-CoA. Succinyl-CoA is an intermediate of PCA cycle, right? And beta alanine. Beta alanine serves as a precursor of acetyl-CoA. So the end products of pyrimidine catabolism are not harmful to the human body. So this is a cycle of catabolism of pyrimidine. CO2 and ammonia is formed. And coming to the disorders, we will just name the disorders, that is orotic acid urea and race syndrome. As we have seen, the products of catabolism are easily excreted out of the body, so there is no harmful effect. Now, the enzymes of nucleotide biosynthesis, that are inhibited by anti-cancer drugs. So this thymidylate synthetase, it is inhibited by fluorodeoxyuridylate. Okay, this is a suicidal or irreversible inhibition. So the formation of TMP is hampered by this anti-cancer drug. And here again, in the last synthetic process, dihydrofolate reductase. Okay, so this is N5N10 methylene THF that donates the methyl group to UMP to convert it to TMP. Okay, after donation of methyl group, it is converted to DHF, dihydrofolate, and this dihydrofolate is again converted to THF with the help of enzyme dihydrofolate reductase. And this is an enzyme which is acted upon competitively by anti-cancer drugs like aminobutyrin and lithotripsy. This can be asked to do as an MCQ, and this is actually a bit higher level. But if you remember it at this level, you may get help by studying the next years at exactly what biological action or reaction takes place by the action of this anti-cancer drugs. Now coming to a case discussion, in 5 minutes we will complete this. A 50-year-old male corporate executive. Are you there? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. A 50-year-old male corporate executive rushed to a casualty with complaint of excruciating pain in first metatarsobophalangeal joint. The joint was swollen, red, and extremely tender. He also gave history of renal colic a year earlier. Lab investigations, all other biochemical parameters were normal, but uric acid level was 15 milligrams per day. What is your diagnosis? As we have seen, what is your diagnosis? Yes, it is a gout. Explain the biochemical basis of joint pain. I'll tell you in short. As there is excess of uric acid and monosodium urate crystals, they are precipitated out near the soft tissue like synovial membrane, and that will activate the macrophages and polymononuclear cells that will release the various mediators of inflammation that will lead to a joint pain. Now, what is the normal range of serum uric acid? You all know this. Okay, this will take next case. A mother of 4-year-old boy got him to OPD for failure to develop his aggressive behavior, pain in joints, and for his compulsive urge to bite his fingers, tips, and lips. He gave the history of similar disorder of her brother. On investigation, boy has serum uric acid levels 10 milligrams per day. What is the diagnosis?
Leishman syndrome.
Yes, it is a Leishman syndrome as patient is a child. Second one, involvement of CNS. Okay, which enzyme is which enzyme is deficient? GPRTase is an enzyme which is deficient. And explain the biochemical basis of involvement of CNS. I have not told you directly, but GPRTase is an enzyme which is utilized in the salvage pathway. And salvage pathway majorly taking place in brain, RBCs and WBCs. So brain utilizes a salvage pathway, and if the enzyme is deficient, then the availability of this purine nucleotides will be less, and that will hamper the development of brain, and that will lead to the CNS involvement. Okay, so this is an open book test for you. You can take a screenshot and you have to write down the question answers of this. Okay, just take a screenshot of it, and those who have left the class, please circulate it for them also. You just go through the questions, write the answers of it. These are the major questions which are asked on the chemistry and metabolism of nucleic acid. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So for reference reading, one more point is there. There is a clinical condition called as pseudo-gout. Pseudo-gout. Just go through the books, find out what is the pseudo-gout. This is a reference reading for you. Okay. So that is all about today's lecture. Thank you.